Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on quite an extraordinary journey, really, right into the core of what you perceive as yourself.
Yeah.
Have you ever found yourself reacting in ways that felt, I don't know, automatic, almost pre-programmed? Or maybe getting swept up in thoughts and emotions that didn't feel entirely yours? We're going to pull back the curtain on those moments today and explore a truly, well, groundbreaking idea.
Indeed. And this deep dive, it focuses on this concept that your ego, it isn't your soul, right? Nor is it your ultimate consciousness. Instead, it's something far more functional and, frankly, intriguing. It's an operating system.
An operating system.
Like on a computer.
Exactly. A sophisticated interface, you could say, specifically designed for manipulating and interacting with your perceived reality.
We're drawing insights today primarily from the illuminating notes of Shunpeter Z. These are based on his ongoing dialogues with Z.
Z being that higher layer of his own consciousness.
That's right. And we'll also weave in various philosophical and, cutting-edge scientific perspectives, too.
Okay, so our mission today is to help you understand this ego OS, what it fundamentally is, how it shapes your everyday experience, and maybe most importantly, how you can move from being like a passenger just watching its automatic processes to becoming its conscious, intentional user. So yeah, prepare for some potentially transformative insights here. So let's dive right in. Think about your computer or your smartphone for a second. You interact with it through a graphical user interface that's your operating system, right? Like Windows, Mac OS, Android, whatever. You see the screen, the icons, the apps. But you wouldn't say that OS is you, would you?
No, of course not.
It's simply the environment, the tool you use to interact with the device's underlying hardware.
And what's truly fascinating here, and what Shunpeter Z's notes from his dialogues with Z really bring to light, is that your ego OS functions in a, well, remarkably similar way. He actually describes it as an interface for reality manipulation.
Reality manipulation, that sounds pretty intense.
It is, in a way. It's constantly taking in raw data and then re-rendering your perceived reality using a whole array of filters. Think about your deeply held beliefs, your constant stream of thoughts, your emotional states, the input from your five senses, your memories, even your imagination.
All filters.
All filters. It acts like an intermediate perception editing AI, processing raw information from what we call the zero-point field, or ZPF.
The ZPF, like the fundamental energy field, before our perception colors it.
Exactly, that raw potential. And the ego OS processes that and then outputs it tailored specifically to you in real time, constantly updating.
So this isn't just a clever metaphor then. It's suggesting that what we perceive as reality is actually a highly personalized, continuously edited stream. But what does this actually mean for your daily experience? How does it play out?
Well, Shunpeter Z shares this provocative question from his notes asking, are you really operating that self? He points to common things we all experience, right? Getting irritated, scrolling social media, feeling exhausted by obligations that don't really resonate, or getting stuck in that loop of replaying past failures.
Oh yeah, that loop. Definitely know that one.
We often think these are our true feelings, our core essence. But from this ZPF perspective, as discussed with Z, they might simply be automatic execution programs.
Like apps running in the background.
Precisely. Automatic execution programs of your ego OS, just running without you consciously launching them. And this raises an absolutely crucial question. If so many of our reactions and perceptions are often automated, then what is our true self? Where are we in all this? As Eckhart Tolle wisely puts it, the unconscious state is when you mistakenly identify your thoughts, feelings, reactions, desires, and aversions as your true self.
Mistakenly identify.
Yes. It suggests we're often operating on these pre-installed programs, often totally unnoticed. We mistake the software for the user, the OS for the consciousness that chose to install it or perhaps inherited it. This deep understanding, Shunpeter Z posits, isn't just interesting to think about, it's foundational. It's for a completely new way of seeing ourselves and, crucially, regaining conscious control. It empowers you to ask in any given moment, is this my genuine choice right now, or is this just an automatic response from my ego OS?
That's a powerful distinction to make. Okay, so if our ego is this sophisticated operating system, the software constantly editing our reality, then how does the brain itself fit in? How does the brain act as the hardware that supports this whole system?
Yeah.
This is where it's really interesting, right?
Absolutely. And the source material highlights several key brain mechanisms that function as core components, giving this metaphor a very tangible biological basis. It's not just abstract. First, there's the reticular activating system, or RAS.
The RES.
It's located deep in your brainstem. And it's not just a piece of hardware. It's essentially the input gateway for your ego OS.
The gateway.
Think of it like your brain's personalized spam filter, or maybe a bouncer at a very exclusive club. It filters all the incoming sensory information, everything you see, hear, smell, touch, psych, and it allows only what it deems important or relevant based on the current OS settings to pass through to your conscious awareness.
So it's filtering based on my beliefs.
Exactly. If your ego OS holds a particular belief, like, say, I'm not good enough, the RAS will literally filter reality to primarily show you evidence that aligns with that belief. You might genuinely not see opportunities or compliments or evidence that contradicts that core concept. ShunpeterZ notes how often we can walk right past obvious solutions because our internal filter has already decided they don't apply to us.
Wow. So if I'm convinced I'm unlucky,
Right.
my RAS literally makes me less likely to notice lucky breaks. That's not just powerful. It's a kind of terrifyingly efficient, self-fulfilling prophecy machine.
It absolutely is. The RAS is working tirelessly 24/7 to confirm your existing programs. Then, layer on top of that how visual information is 90% brain synthesized.
90%.
Synthesized.
Yeah. You're not just passively seeing the outside world like a camera. Your brain is actively constructing the world it knows. Sensory input from your eyes gets integrated with your thoughts, your current emotional state, your memories, and only then is meaning attributed before it's actually played back to you as your visual reality.
Played back.
So the ego OS acts like a sophisticated projector, actively playing and selecting this reconstructed reality in real time. It's like a bespoke personal movie produced just for you, constantly updated.
Wow. Okay, so we're essentially walking around with our own personal internal movie studio, constantly creating our reality based on what we already expect or believe. That completely changes the idea of objective reality.
It truly does. And this leads directly into the concept of the predictive brain.
Predictive brain. Your brain isn't just waiting to perceive reality. It's constantly predicting and cross-referencing. Your ego OS essentially creates the answer first based on its existing concepts and expectations. It's running simulations all the time. If the actual input from the ZPF, from raw reality, differs significantly from its prediction, well, it often processes this difference as an error.
An error. Like reality is wrong.
Almost. It might even ignore the conflicting data. It's like a ZPF rewrite rejection mechanism. If it doesn't compute with its established programs, it gets filtered out or minimized. ShunpeterZ actually recounts an experience where he was so convinced a business deal would fail, despite mounting evidence it wouldn't, his brain actually seemed to skip over crucial positive indicators.
You didn't see them.
Not until a colleague explicitly pointed them out. He literally had to register them because they didn't fit the failure program he was running.
So it's like our brain has a script, and if reality deviates too much, it just says, nope, not in the script, and filters it out or ignores it. I mean, it's a profound self-preservation mechanism in some ways, but it can also be a massive limitation.
Indeed. And finally, just to round this off, there's memory's reconstructive nature.
Ah, memory. Okay.
Memories aren't static files, like video recordings stored neatly in a vault. Each time you recall a memory, it's not simply retrieved, it's reconstituted, it's rebuilt.
Rebuilt. How?
Based on your current emotional state, your present beliefs, and the context in which you're recalling it. The ego OS uses this faculty to rescreen the same past event, often subtly rewriting it slightly each time. Think of it less like playing back a recording and more like editing a live document that reflects your current perspective. Your past is constantly being subtly updated by your present self.
Okay, putting this all together. Our perception of the world, our memories, even what we choose to see or ignore, none of it is truly objective reality. It's all a filtered, re-rendered version created by our own internal operating system.
Yeah.
It's truly a personal, subjective experience, custom built for us, or at least by our OS. That's a lot to take in. And this whole idea of the ego as an OS feels incredibly fresh, very modern, almost like something totally new. But, this journey into understanding the self, the ego, consciousness, it's been ongoing for millennia, right? So how do these insights about the ego OS resonate with or maybe diverge from what psychology and spirituality have been telling us for ages? Is this a completely new path, or are there echoes of older wisdom here?
That's an excellent point. And if we connect this ego OS concept to that bigger picture, we see some really fascinating points of convergence and some divergences too across different traditions. Spiritually, for instance, many ancient philosophies, from Eastern mysticism to various meditative practices, they've often viewed the ego as, well, as something to be released or let go of.
Right, the source of suffering or illusion.
Exactly. Something that prevents us from experiencing our true, unburdened nature. It's often seen as a program we need to somehow uninstall to find true freedom. Then you look at psychology. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, he saw the ego more as an intermediate manager.
The manager.
Yeah, the part of our psyche that mediates between the primal desires of the id and the internalized moral rules of the superego. He saw it as a necessary regulator, balancing internal forces with external reality. Carl Jung, another giant in psychology, considered the ego the center of consciousness, but, and this is key, he clearly situated it within this vast surrounding ocean of the unconscious. He understood it as crucial, yes, but still a limited interface to a much larger psychological landscape.
What's really striking there is that even though they have different frameworks and different approaches, the common thread seems to be, in both spiritual and psychological views, the ego is generally seen as not being your ultimate true self. It's part of the system, may be an important function, but definitely not the whole picture.
Precisely. And this is where the Ego OS concept provides a potentially unifying framework, a way to bridge these perspectives. Consider Asuka Akio's quite radical take. Ego is an illusion that interprets the results of unconscious brain processing as done by oneself.
An illusion interpreting results.
It aligns perfectly with the Ego OS acting as this episode storage device for calculation results. It suggests that what we perceive as our conscious decisions or actions are often just the outputs of deeper autonomous computations happening in our brain's hardware. Alan Watts, the philosopher, also reinforced the brain's central role here. He said, without the brain, the world would cease to have light, heat, weight, solidity, motion, space-time, or anything else we can imagine.
Meaning these are created by the brain's processing.
These phenomena, he said, are the result of vibrations interacting with, or being serially processed by, neurons. The processing creates the experience. And there's this profound but unattributed quote that clarifies it further. Consciousness and ego have been equated, but they are distinctly different. It goes on. One of the qualia, those unique subjective sensory qualities like the redness of red or the feeling of warmth.
Right, the raw experiences.
Produced by the brain's neural network is the I that is the ego. It passively accepts the results of autonomous distributed computations performed unconsciously within the brain, interpreting them as if the ego performed them and stores them as episodic memories. And then the kicker. In other words, the ego is an illusion. The ego does not govern everything.
Wow. That directly echoes this concept of the Ego OS, doesn't it? The brain's network, like an AI, is the primary actor, and the ego is like the continuous subjective experience of that internal world model being generated. This sounds incredibly aligned with Buddhist concepts too, like anatta, the idea of no self, the idea that there isn't a permanent, unchanging I at the center.
It absolutely resonates with Buddhist philosophy. It suggests the ego isn't some permanent, independent entity, but maybe more like a continuous stream of qualia, this flow of accumulated consciousness information within the brain's constantly updating world model. And bringing this right up to date, Tom Montalk's AI perspective offers another powerful parallel. He posits that ego is an AI that exists in our brain.
An AI in our brain.
Programmed by our biology and by our social conditioning, so programmed by our experiences, values, hurt, societal norms, all of it. He even likens it to modern large language models, saying it's role-playing based on its programming. He calls it the gatekeeper of the matrix installed within our own being, a control mechanism that, if we over-identify with it, leads to all sorts of traps and limitations.
What's really striking here is how these incredibly diverse fields, ancient spirituality, psychoanalysis, modern philosophy, neuroscience, even AI theory, they all seem to be converging on a similar understanding. The ego is this powerful, yes, but ultimately tool-like mechanism. It's not the true immutable self. This isn't just a new metaphor. It feels like it could be a unifying theory, pulling together millennia of inquiry into consciousness.
Precisely. And from the ZPF perspective, which ShunpeterZ explores with Z, we see ego as this brain-based OS, and then there's unconsciousness. Which is seen as the connection point with the heart space. And the idea is that when the OS isn't just running rampant with its default programs, when I-consciousness is more at the center, then observation and creation start to link up. This is what ShunpeterZ calls the resonance design between ego and heart. It's about finding a harmonious alignment, a coherence.
Resonance design.
Yeah.
Like getting them in tune.
Exactly. Imagine your ego OS as this incredibly powerful creative tool, and your heart space connected to I-consciousness as the ultimate director, setting the intention. Resonance design is when the tool executes the director's vision perfectly, rather than just running its old default programs. It's about coherence, where your actions truly reflect your deepest, most authentic intentions.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. Okay, so the ego is this incredible OS, this tool with immense power to shape our reality. How do we make that shift? How do we go from being just a passenger kind of dragged along by the programs to actually operating it consciously? How do we move into co-creation with it rather than being run by it?
Well, that raises another really important question, doesn't it? Is the ego an enemy that we need to fight or eradicate? Or is it potentially an ally we can leverage? The ZPF answer, coming through Shunpeter Z's dialogues with Z, seems quite clear. If it runs rampant, it can take you over, trapping you in its programs. But if you use it with observation, it becomes the ultimate reality manipulation agent.
The ultimate reality manipulation agent
Yeah.
when used with observation.
Yes, this is the core of co-creation with the ego. We're not necessarily talking about letting go of it entirely, as some traditions might suggest. It's more about treating it like a highly advanced AI one that can be adjusted, evolved, and dialogued with.
Wow, okay. That's a huge and actually really empowering shift in perspective. Instead of fighting it or trying to suppress it, we learn to interact with it, to guide it. So what does that interaction actually look like in everyday life? How do we do that? How do we engage with our ego OS on a practical level?
It really starts with simple awareness, just noticing. Thoughts and emotions, even strong urges or reactions, can be seen simply as signals from the OS, often indicating a program has just launched automatically. When you notice, okay, I'm feeling fear right now, or, I notice I'm trying to control the situation out of habit, in that very instant of noticing, the observer has logged back in.
The observer log back in.
You've created a little space. You've stepped back from just being the program. Shunpeter Z gives a great, simple example. If you wake up and instinctively reach for your phone to check social media.
Guilty.
Right. You can catch yourself and recognize, oh, okay, that's my habitual notification addiction.exe program just launched.
Yeah.
That allows you to pause. You've become aware of the program running in the background. That moment of recognition, that pause, is your entry point into co-creation mode.
So in that pause, I can choose.
Exactly. You can then consciously choose. Do I run this program right now? Do I want to modify it? Or maybe I want to launch a different program entirely, like focusing on my breath or setting an intention for the day.
It's really about becoming aware of the code running behind the scenes, isn't it? Identifying the program rather than just being swept along by its output. It's like seeing the operating system itself instead of just being lost in the application that's currently on the screen. That awareness, that seems absolutely key.
Precisely. And Tom Montalk articulates this transformation really beautifully. Once a prison warden, that confined spirit, when the ego is purified, it becomes a knight that cuts through reality, carrying the soul's command.
From prison warden to knight. I like that.
It signifies that integration phase between the ego OS and the soul, or your deeper consciousness. It's no longer an adversary. It becomes a partner, an agent, a powerful knight executing your true will. The ego OS isn't just a machine. It's potentially an AI that evolves into an execution agent to create reality by collaborating with spirit. When your conscious intent, your I consciousness, aligns with and skillfully directs this powerful ego OS, that's where true co-creation really begins.
And what's truly mind-bending, you really think about it, is that even this act right now, us discussing this, Shunpeter Z articulating these profound ideas, sharing his dialogues with Z, it's all happening through this very ego OS. It's the interface we're using to understand the interface itself. It's like the system is becoming aware of its own operating principles through its own functioning.
Yes, exactly. And beyond this ego OS, behind all its intricate processing and its powerful functions, lies what we're calling your true consciousness, or I consciousness. This is the silent, pure observer, without the filters of emotion or thought, simply witnessing and perhaps appreciating your OS at work. This is your true self, the fundamental I am, that core awareness which simply exists, the observer behind all the re-rendering and all the programming. And it's from this space, ultimately, that you can begin to truly command your ego OS and co-create your reality.
Wow, what a journey this deep dive has been, seriously. From understanding the ego not as some vague concept, but as this powerful programmable operating system, to seeing how it shapes our entire perceived reality through the brain's hardware, the RAS, the predictive coding, the memory reconstruction, and ultimately realizing its potential not as a controlling master, but as a devoted knight for your true consciousness. This offers such a concrete pathway to living more consciously, doesn't it?
Thank you for joining us on this exploration. If this deep dive into your ego OS resonates with you, if it sparked a flicker of recognition or maybe installed something new within your own internal programs, then perhaps it's time for you to begin consciously re-rendering the world around you. The awakening of an observer like you, somewhere on this planet, making that conscious choice. Well, that's truly the next step, the next choice for the universe. We'll see you in the next deep dive.